Good morning, Michelle. How are
Good
you?
morning. Good, Ileana. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So I'm really thrilled to have the opportunity to interview you today and to help introduce Soft Souls to everyone. If it's okay with you, I'd like to start with a story of how we met.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So you were a nurse in the hospital where my mother was in palliative care, and you made such an impact on my mother with the warm support that you provided her and the space that you held for her, in particular on a day that she was experiencing some really high levels of anxiety. So she referred to you as her angel nurse, and our family now lovingly holds a spot in our hearts for you, and you are known to us as Mom's angel nurse, Michelle. So thank you for that, because that was, a really wonderful moment in a time in our lives that was not necessarily so wonderful overall.
It was a life-changing for me as well with your mom.
That's really so special. Thank you. So on to Soft Souls. What I'd really like to do today is learn about how Soft Souls came to be. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, I was working at the hospital, and part of the training that I had at the hospital was I would be mentoring new nurses to the floor, as well as taking some extra training to work on their new unit that was going to be built called the ACE unit. Now, the ACE unit is the acute care for the elderly portion of the hospital, where they're dealing specifically with people like Mom who had multiple issues going on. And it was our training to determine where those issues started. And through that training, I realized how many people started having their issues when they were in their 40s to 50s, 60s. And really, had they had some extra education, some extra support systems in place, the problems that they had come in for dehydration, malnutrition, heart attacks, bowel and bladder issues, all of these things would have been able to be avoided had we just had some extra education. So I petitioned the hospital and asked them if they would hire foot care nurses. And they said no. And then they said, I said, well, let's train the nurses on the floor to do this. They said, well, we don't have time for that. We're already overwhelmed. So I left and I went back to school and became a foot care nurse. I took extra training in vascular health and diabetes education, and was shortly after I started my company, Soft Souls, was approached by Algonquin College to teach their program, which I declined and said that the program was not up to par with standards today. And they then asked me to rewrite the program, which is what I've done and have been teaching for the last 4 years at Algonquin College, as well as running my own company independently.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, that just highlights something that I love so much about you. You're such an action taker. You're right in there, right? Like you see something that needs to be done and you feel so compelled and your heart is so full and you just go after it. I just love that.
It was an obvious need that was not being met in the community, for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh. So, Michelle, I also know that you now, and you've just kind of highlighted that, you're really renowned in the Ottawa area for the level of care that you provide to your clients. Can you tell me a little bit about what makes Soft Souls so unique in its approach?
Well, I think that nurses are compassionate and try to be loving healers as much as possible. Unfortunately, in the confines of the industry, it's difficult for nurses to meet the needs of each of their clients, which I don't have that issue. All of my nurses are assigned to an individual, and they build a relationship around that person. So there's really a love for that person. Whether they're a paying client or not, if there's an issue, that nurse is on it, she's following up with them. And it doesn't always have to be a foot care issue. Sometimes we're dealing with people who are going through a move, and we have multiple different organizations that we work very closely with to help them with those decision making. Sometimes it's caregiver burnout, and in those cases we're supporting family. So when we go into the house, it's not just that person with the foot problem that we're going to see. We're also assessing the whole situation. So if the caregiver can't provide care, then the situation's not tenable. So we have to care for everybody in the home.
Wow, I really love that holistic approach, right? There's just so much more to any given person than
Oh,
just
absolutely.
their particular circumstances or their healthcare circumstances, right? There's so much more involved than just that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And well, you are, in fact, as you mentioned earlier too. Well, maybe you didn't mention it in these terms, but I can confidently call you a leader in your field. So what can you tell me about how you support the career paths of foot care nurses as well? Because I know, I mean, beyond just what you've done with the program at Algonquin College, that's also another focus of your business.
Absolutely. So what I found teaching at Algonquin, that many of the nurses that were becoming foot care nurses were unsuccessful starting their own businesses, which was part of the program as well, was how to start a business and run it effectively within all the legal boundaries that nurses have to abide by. And many of them weren't able to be successful. It's extremely expensive to start a foot care business with the sterilization process and the equipment that's required. And many were floundering. So what Soft Souls does is provides mentorship, guidance. We have many nurses that are new grads that come to us for training, some extra one-on-one attention and support in starting their own companies. So whether that's through rental of equipment or supplies or autoclaving services, or just one-on-one, this is how you're going to deal with this. We find that nurses are much more successful in their care with that type of support.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, yeah, that just sounds so wonderful to me, how it doesn't sound like you're concerned with competition. You're really just there to add to the breadth of services available to people in the community.
Well, at this time in the Ottawa Valley, we're one of the most inundated with senior population. I think it's 1 out of 6 at this point. So for every 6 seniors, there's 1 caregiver, which means it's not going to be possible for nurses alone to meet the need of these clients living in their homes and living in long-term care facility. It's going to take an entire community to support them. So no, as far as foot care is concerned, there's no concern of competition. It's a matter of being able to train enough people to even take an edge off with a tsunami of seniors that are going to be needing this care.
Wow. Wow. Well, I have to say in closing, I really think that we are blessed here in the Ottawa area to have such an amazing foot care industry leader such as yourself. And may I just thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
You are very welcome. Thank you for sitting with me for a while.
That's wonderful. Have such a great day.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.